Whether the dreams brought on the fever, or the fever brought on the dreams, I do not know. My ears have grown sensitive to a preternatural and intolerable degree. The darkness always teems with unseen sound, and yet sometimes I shake with fear lest the noises I hear should subside and allow me to hear certain other, fainter sort of sounds that I suspect are lurking behind them. Possibly I ought not to have studied so hard. Non-Euclidean calculus and quantum physics are enough to stretch any brain, and when one mixes them with folklore and tries to trace a strange background of multidimensional reality behind the ghoulish hints of Gothic tales, one can hardly expect to be wholly free from mental tension. 1692. Old Keziah Mason vanishes from Salem jail without a trace. Her jailer had gone mad and babbled of a small, white-fanged, furry thing which scuttled out of Keziah's cell, and not even Cotton Mather could explain the lines and curves which had been smeared on the gray stone walls of her cell in a red, sticky fluid. In her trial, she had told Judge Hawthorne of lines and curves that could be made to point out directions leading through the walls of space to other spaces beyond, and had implied that such lines and curves were frequently used in midnight meetings on the small, unpeopled island in the river. Then she had drawn these devices on the walls of her cell and vanished. Hoping to find some insight, I rowed out to this ill-regarded island and discovered intersecting lines of ancient moss-grown stone. Something in their seemingly random arrangement compelled me. Through sleepless nights, I began to trace out their fractal geometries. When I read them in the context of ancient forbidden texts, like the Necronomicon of Abdul al-Zawrad, I was astounded to find correlations to my own academic work on space-time topology, suggesting a level of scientific knowledge hundreds of years ahead of their time. That is why I tracked down the old witch house. For it was this house, and this very room, which harbored old Keziah Mason before her trial. I could not have told what I expected to find here, but I knew that I wanted to be in the building where some circumstance had more or less suddenly given a mediocre old woman of the 17th century an insight into mathematical depths beyond the utmost delvings of Einstein, Heisenberg, or Gödel. My first few months in the house were squalid, yet uneventful. The dreams began in February. They are wholly beyond the pale of sanity. They consist largely in plunges through limitless abysses of twilight and bafflingly disordered sound, cluttered with impossible geometric forms, multidimensional prisms, labyrinths, octopi, cyclopean buildings, and living Hindu idols, and intricate arabesques, roused into a kind of Ophidian animation. With each successful plunge into the abyss, I can feel the limited horizons of my own perception exponentially expanded. I can now effortlessly understand the complex interactions of seven-dimensional hypercubes, usually beyond the feeble processing power of the human mind. And yet, the more clearly I can see these abyssal denizens, so too the more clearly do they seem to see me. And whenever one of them appears by its movements to notice me, I feel a sharp, hideous fright, which generally jolts me awake. These dreams are distant enough from reality that alone they would be endurable, were they not invariably prefaced by certain lighter, sharper dreams in which I am visited by Brown Jenkin, that monstrous and diminutive hybrid which Witnesses claim they saw escaping from Keziah's cell. It has the body of a rat, but its bearded face is evilly human. Its paws, tiny human hands. Its voice is a kind of loathsome titter, and it can speak all languages. I will be lying in the dark, fighting to keep awake, when a faint lambent glow will seem to shimmer around the sanctuary room. The horror will then pop out of the rat hole in the corner and scurry towards me over the sagging wide-paneled floor with evil expectancy on its tiny, bearded human face. In my sleeping state, I will be powerless to recoil as it sidles up to me and ah! Glimpsed by no fewer than 11 people in 1692, it is surely a remarkable case of paranoid herd delusion. I've tried to stop up the rat hole every day, but every night the real denizens of the partitions gnaw through the obstruction. My health has rapidly deteriorated to a dire state, but I have not yet consulted a doctor since each deeper plunge into fever dream has led to a greater leap forward in my studies. The influence of this old house is unwholesome, I cannot deny. But surely the fever alone is responsible for my nightly fantasies. When the touch abates, I will be free from these monstrous visions. These visions are so vivid, beyond any dreams I've ever known, and on waking I retain a vague sense of having undergone far more than I can remember. I can recall the way they pronounce strange words, like Azathoth. Overlooking a boundless Cyclopean sea which glitters gorgeously in the night. Looking up, I see 3 stupendous discs of flame above an infinitely distant curving horizon of low mountains. Back across the terrace, I see a creature of unimaginable horror. A pulpy, tentacled head on a scaly body with rudimentary wings. It beckons to me. It leads me to a large chamber, at the center of which lies a stone dais where await brown and gentle, a monstrous, leering old woman. On the altar between them lies a pale white figure. The woman intones a croaking ritual in a language I cannot understand, and she raises a gleaming, grotesquely hafted knife with an oddly proportioned pale yellow bowl. The fear and apprehension I feel are entirely overwhelmed by a sense of power and imminence surging through me. I am unable to control my own actions. The veil of time slips, and I can see the concurrence of all spaces, all moments. I hear the hellish, alien rhythm chant of the Sabbats rising from an infinite distance. The prayers to the crawling chaos turning into a triumphant shriek. Gleam of Bach, Fulu Lech, the gun of Pragen, La Shoot Nigo